I'm Mike Martin. I was in the Army during World War II, and my serial number there was 377538154. When I got out, my rank was Staff Sergeant. I served in the Philippine Islands. I was in the 158th Regimental Combat Team. I was a scout in the infantry. I carried a Thompson submachine gun. I used it every day for probably 70 days in a row. I graduated from high school in 1940. I was farming with my dad. And then I went into the Army. I think it was in the fall of '44. I was right here at home. Not in this place here, but where I grew up, about a mile from here. Washing my car. And the news came on the radio that we'd been attacked. And, well, I didn't know what to think. Everybody was really surprised. I had no idea that anything like that was going to happen, because the Hawaiian Islands was a long ways from Japan, you know, and anything else. But they came in there and really blew that place apart in just a few hours. Well, it didn't take long to catch on that we were going to. After that, and Roosevelt was president at the time, you know, Franklin D. And all the people in Salina and everywhere else in the country lined up a lot of people went in to go to war, signed up to go. I think 307 the first day I went out to Salina. And but I didn't go though till 44, because they were deferring people that farmed at that time just for food for the Army. And I went in a couple of times thinking I was going, and sent me back home because I was farming. I wasn't too anxious to go, to be real truthful. I didn't like that idea. That then they finally drafted me later, and there were quite a few boys around here that got deferred, but eventually they all went. I thought they'd take me any time, and I was ready to go anytime they called, but me and several other boys around here stayed out for a while. But they didn't take us the same time either. I went alone myself. Yeah, I had brothers and sisters. Yeah, they were all younger than I was. They were too young. My brothers, well, they were 10 years younger than I was, I guess, something like that. And they didn't take them. But one of them did go later, though, when he got older. The war was over when he went in. And he went overseas also. But the war was all over when they went. I used to do quite a little bit of traveling. My grandparents, one set of grandparents lived in California. I was out there 3 or 4 times prior to going to war. Well, I drove one time, went by bus one time, and by train one time. I was down at Leavenworth. And when I went into service, and I went from there to Camp Hood, Texas, for training. I think we trained for about, I think 13 weeks, maybe 10 or 12, 13 in there someplace. I had no idea, no. I knew I was going to be in the infantry, though. I took the exam to be a sailor. That's what I thought I wanted to be. I was colorblind. It wouldn't take me. I passed everything else but that. Well, you ought to know You know, when that cable goes from the deck to the top, you put all the little flags on it. Each one of those flags means something, and they're different color. And they all look the same to me. I kind of liked everything they did in basic training. They were real strict, for one thing. I kind of like that. I like for the people that I'm talking to are strict too. So then from Camp Hood, I came home for I think 7 days vacation, and then I went to California. It was San Francisco. Get on a ship to go overseas. Had no idea where I was going or anything. We got on a boat that had 5,000 GIs on it besides the crew. We were sleeping in a room that was about, I suppose there was 50 people in their same room, and stacks about 6 high. And I was on the bottom. So that was a good deal. I had that. I really enjoyed that part of it. Yeah, I didn't have to climb up there, you know. The only ladder you had was somebody else's bunk. And everybody got seasick, of course. But I was in there with two boys from Solomon, just a little town. They were both sick. Everybody on it was sick. But I never was. So I'd steal food from the Navy and slip them some food. They felt all right long as they was in bed. If they ever got up, they'd vomit. I was going in myself. I was sneaking in twice. We used to go I'm a Catholic. I used to have mass, saying mass on the deck on the right-hand side. And there was a door there right by that, where they're going in to get the food. And I saw cooks coming up out of there. And the mass was just on the opposite side of the boat. And a door over there too, so they'd go downstairs through where they're doing all the cooking and up the other stairway, where an MP that would greet you there. And he was, he had to have a ticket to get in, and I only had a ticket for one meal. I always got 3 every day, but I would go up there and tell that KP, tell it. Boy, they had a billy club there that straightened you out if you got out of line. And I'd tell him KP is all I'd say to him. And he thought I was on KP downstairs. I think they had real eggs. Well, yeah, I think so. They had frying pans that were about 3 feet square. One fellow, he could break them 2 at a time, just as fast as he could. And boy, he could keep up. I tell you, what a fellow do that. Ice cream, though, they had was, I never had any ice cream all the time in the service, except once on the Navy, and they always had the dishes so sterile. They were so hot you couldn't touch one of them. And they put the ice cream in one of them bowls, and it just turned to skim milk, looked lucky there. That was the ice cream we had. 30 days. It was both hot and cold. We'd go down south. But I knew, in talking to sailors, I always knew where we were, what degree on the globe we were. And so I got a little record of where I crossed it, going both directions, so that my folks at home would know where we were, you know. Oh, they had people shipping paint all day long, but they never did catch me to do any work. I really enjoyed it all, but these ships had been ocean liners. See, I can't think of the name of the ship. I knew it yesterday, but it held 5,000 people on there, plus a USO show and a few other things like that. On the trip, we were, see this, I guess that was a little later. That was when we were going to Japan, I guess it was. The boat, don't make any difference which trip it was, but the boats we got into a typhoon, and we were going to go to. This was after the war was over, though. We were going to go to Japan. We were all sacked up we were going to attack Japan, and the boat. The sailors claimed that the waves were 100 feet high, and we were going north. And there was a big armada of ships going at the same time. Some of them little ships, you'd look through a little hole in the thing, but they were completely under water. Pretty soon they'd come back up out of there, and the water would be several feet deep on the deck. They just pour off of there. Those guys had a real rough ride. We lost 2 or 3 boats in that storm, but we were turning around going back south for 2 or 3 days to get out of it. And the boat would roll around so much that they had bathrooms, you might call them. They were probably about 50 feet square, probably 40 feet square, with all the toiletry in there and stuff, and these boats would tip up sideways, back and forth, and all that. Whatever was in the trough came out on the floor. And the boys had no place else to go but there, you know. They go to the bathroom, and the floors, what was on the floor in there would wash from one side to the other, be about 2 or 3 inches deep. And then they'd have the shoes on, of course, everybody did. I was one of them. And when you walk out of there to go somewhere else, there was aisles to walk down through there, you know, and they were all slick. And you couldn't stand up. So you'd have to hang on to something, like it'd fall down. It was kind of a mess, I'll tell you for sure. But everybody was seasick, and they're all vomiting everywhere too. There's vomit just everywhere. And but I never did get sick. I never didn't bother me a bit. So, well, I tell you, 90% of the sailors were sick too. Some of them were. I went down as far as Australia, the little island north of Australia, New Guinea. That was for a while. Then we went to the Philippines. And that's where I joined the 158th Regimental Combat Team there. In Manila, I went on. They had just bombed the Japanese Navy, lost their Navy there. And you couldn't come within about a mile or 2 of shore. So we went to shore in these landing boats. We had to crawl down the ladder on the outside of the boat, down into those, outside of our ship, into those little boats and go to shore, LCM boats. So I was in Manila, I guess 2 or 3 days, and wasn't signed to anybody yet. So I heard later that they got word from somebody that they had, it was 158 that I went to, was down the southern part of Luzon. So they flew us out there in C-47s. They flew right out over the ocean, circled around out there. We flew most of the day. It's quite a ways from, but Philippine Islands is pretty long, several thousand miles long. And they said they were short of men out there. They just landed at Legazpi. And I think they only had 50 men left in the company that I joined there. They dropped us off at the airport. They just took the airstrip away from the Japanese that day. And we lit there on a dirt road, dirt strip, on C-47s. And that's when we got our weapons there. And I got a Thompson submachine gun. They had a, I don't know why I got it in particular, but there was two of them to a squad. I think there's about 16 in a squad, something like that. And there's two scouts. I was the first scout in front, and then the second scout, and then the BAR man. That's kind of the order they had. And then the rest of them were M1 rifles. And I spent, I didn't know how to run the Thompson submachine gun either. I wasn't trained for one of those. And I asked the sergeant there that he called my name off. He said, "This gun's for you." And I said, "Well, what is it?" He said, "It's a Thompson submachine gun." I said, "Can you tell me something about it?" He said, "I don't have time to tell you anything." He said, "You'll learn how to run that thing tonight." A good gun, man. They're a vicious gun, I'll tell you for sure. I tell you, I was so close to the Japanese all the time, I didn't even use the sights. Didn't need them. You couldn't hardly shoot less than 5 at a time. I shot that thing all day long for 60-some days and nights in a row. Though as far as the jungle is concerned, I never was sick at all. Never was no sick call in the Army. My shoes might be full of water all day. And then next day, same shoes. One thing about the boys in our outfit, they were really in good physical shape. They were tough guys. And I don't realize anybody really going to the doctor about their feet, but they went to the doctor for other things. They had malaria there, but they were giving us pills every day to take to prevent that. Once in a while, the fellow would get it anyway, I suppose. But I never did get sick at all, or didn't get much sleep. After we got off the boat, I was in foxholes for about 70 nights in a row, I think it was. Day and night. Well, we'd be out on offense in daytime and defense at night. The Japanese, they operate at night more than daytime. Of course, they did some in the daytime too, but we would change off every 2 hours. I mean, one guy would sit up in we always dug a hole about 4 feet square, and if he had time to dig it. And one fellow could lay down for a little while, kind of curl up there, lay in there a little bit, but a lot of times there'd be 6 inches of water in it too, you know. It could rain several inches in one night sometimes, and sometimes it'd be 6 inches even in the hole that we'd be in, but you wouldn't dare get out of the hole. And you get shot by one of your own men if you did, or a Japanese. And one night, the fellow that right alongside of me, about 3 feet, or about 6 feet, I guess he was in his hole. We were supposed to take our helmets off at night and wear caps, because especially if the moon was out. He took his cap off and set it up on top and sitting there alongside of it. And a Jap put a hole through it, through his helmet at night. He didn't have his head in the helmet. He was about from 6 or 8 feet from me, I guess. No, he didn't get shot. He took the helmet off and set it up there. It was moonlight night, and it's shining the moon, you know. The Jap could see that from how far off he was, but probably 50 feet maybe. But we were in the jungle all the time, and the jungle was come right up to where we dug in, you know, so you couldn't tell how close anybody was, except you could hear them. Oh, they were. They had a big Caterpillar tractor over there with a big blade on the front, and this fellow tried to make a road of some kind to where we were if he could. And we might go on sea rations and so forth until every once in a while, though, they get through sometimes and give you a feed, but not very often. But, yeah, I had plenty of ammunition. Seemed like they had people bringing it to you all the time. You'd have to step back from the front line for about 10 minutes and reload. And yeah, there was no shortage of ammunition where I was. We weren't allowed to drink any water in any stream. There are lots of streams over there. There's probably pure water too, but they thought we couldn't drink out of the streams because they thought they might be contaminated. We had our own water. We carried two canteens on our belts that held about I suppose they held a quart apiece. And we had pills to put it in the water. So it took 30 minutes for it to purify the water, if it wasn't pure. So we'd drink it out of one while the other was. We'd alternate, so you could always get a drink of water. I don't think we ever did run out of water for very long. Well, yeah, one time, a little story a little later on, we did run out of water for quite a while one day. We walked about 15 miles one day across the farmland and stuff and run out of water. Boy, I was really thirsty that time. Everywhere we went, we killed the Japanese where we were, all of them. And then we might move somewhere else to another mountain and start up again. And sometimes it would be far enough away that we'd go by truck. But if we go by truck, they'd dump us out and we'd start over every day. And one mountain we was out there, it was a lot of going up and down the mountains, little trails in there and stuff, maybe 3 feet wide. Trees are about 40 feet high, and mostly mahogany. And one time we were up so high, I got up one morning, the clouds are down below. And coming down, we had so much stuff on our packs, so heavy, that if you had to slip, you have to slip down 3 or 4 feet to catch a hold to get away. You'd slip out of your pack, then it'd pound you on the back when you hit the bottom. On mine, I had so much stuff. And so I took I had my pack and I took my undershirt off. I had an undershirt on, I guess. And I wrapped the buckles on my snap was boring holes in my back. So I wrapped them on my pack over the buckles for padding. And it's hanging out through the shop. I'll show them to you before you go home. My pad's out there, and so are the bandage I put on there to keep from digging a hole in my back. Yeah, I was kind of rough going up that mountain. It's just, and I had to look out for the Japanese at the same time. In those days, they didn't have much way of talking to each other if we got very far apart. So they had one fellow, his job was to carry a spool of telephone wire, and as we went, he'd uncoil it, and it'd be in a trail going back, and then sometimes the Japanese slip in behind and cut it off. and then they might pull the end of it out into the brush wall. And if anybody went down to patch that line, why, they'd get ambushed, so be careful. They'd pull it back and wait for somebody to come pick it up. That was the only there was no talking other than that one little phone that the captain would have, maybe if you want to talk back to where our headquarters were. Of course, the headquarters moved every day too, you know. And one time over there, they had a little radio. It was, I think, about 3 feet square. It looked like a box of some sort, about 8 inches thick, and there was a radio in there. They contact. And I don't know what that thing weighed. It had fixed with a harness for one man to wear it. So I don't know why they picked me out, but they all knew to carry that thing. So I carried that thing for a day or two so they could talk on her. I don't know why they picked on me, but anyway, about as good as anything, it was kind of heavy. Oh, I threw a lot of hand grenades in the mountains there. There's one place there I think I threw 40 or 50 in one day. They'd bring them up there in a gunny sack, pour them out in the pile. I just stepped back a while, pick a bunch of them, and had the hand grenades hooked at all the buckles on her clothes, and I threw them things in. The Japanese had holes about, I'd say they're 3 or 4 feet deep. They'd been there a long time. The holes are probably a year old, maybe. I don't know how old they were, but they all grew up between them and stuff, you know. And they could be down in, they'd have a little hole there, and it'd be about 4 feet deep, and get down the bottom way, it would be big enough they could lay down in there, even. And that little hole about that big around, where they just pop out there with a gun, take a shot at you if anybody right close, and jerk, and then drop right back in there again. And so we threw hand grenades at those, and the hand grenades that we had at first, I think they went off in 5 seconds. When you pull the trigger on a hand grenade and let loose of it, that little handle will fly off, and that ignites it, just like a cigarette lighter. And you'd have to hold that thing in your hand for about 2 or 3 seconds with it buzzing, going to go off in 5, to throw it in the hole. Because if you threw it right away, the Japanese would catch it and throw it back. And if they could see it coming. So then they changed it to, I think, the 2-second ones. So 2 seconds is quite a little while. You're lucky on the basketball team, 2 seconds is quite a bit in the game. But anyway, but they couldn't catch them fast enough to throw them back out. I had a grenade. When a grenade goes off, the fragments from a grenade start from when it goes off, it's going to have something to push in the air, So the ground did that, and they always go up from away from there. So if you saw a grenade fall like from into that table, if you laid down there right quick, it'd go over your head. And I had one time, got my foot sticking up. Well, I got to my sole of my shoe. It was that close, but it didn't touch me. So, but I threw a bunch of them, especially one or 2 days there, just as fast as I could throw them. And I don't think I ever missed a hole. So those things, they might come out waving a white flag. I don't know whether that would be good stuff to broadcast or not, but that'd be the last thing they did. Because our outfit, before I joined them, they would come out of a hole with a white flag, and they might have dynamite stuck to them under their coat or something. and they get 2 or 3 of our guys, you know, if we took them prisoner. So the guys I was with would not take a prisoner at all. He come that way, and if I used sausage. I'll tell you one thing, I never did shoot at one of them with his flagpole. I didn't have to. Everybody was more than happy to do it. Yeah, we had mortars with us. The guys with the mortars, they were pretty good. Fellas hadn't had to shoot them pretty good. They went up, you know, and down, and the Japanese know that, and they would get as close to us as they could possibly get, so they wouldn't get hit. And I had to, we'd hear one of them coming. Well, we would, I'd always would duck my head down because I had shrapnel go down, and they're in a hole from our own, because I was right in the front line all the time. I never did get anywhere but in front for about 70 days in a row. We were one time, there was a kind of a real steep hill. It was a mountain, really, what it was. I guess part of it, the mountain was a tremendous big place, but the Japanese had holes, tunnels dug in up there. They might go in and horseshoe shape and come out somewhere else, and the one side would come out might be a lot of brush and stuff in it, and you couldn't hardly see it. But and it was up probably about 100 feet above where the rest of the guys were. And me and another fella both had machine guns, and we had phosphate hand grenades. And they'd burn through anything. You stood on a tin roof, it'd burn a hole in it. Anyway, we crawled up there probably about 100 feet through I think it was volcanic ash. We were pretty close to the volcano there that was alive. Mount Mayon. Mount Mayon, it's on their money. And we'd throw a hand grenade in there and then send about a round of 45s in there so they couldn't come out. There was about 100 guys down below with their guns all pointed to them things too, in case they saw one come out to keep from getting us. But we had to climb up there. There was about 8 or 10 of them all along in a row like that. And we went up there and threw stuff at every one of them. Just fired our guns in there and stuff, and you'd hear them holler in there. There was guys in there. And then when they finally camped, we went down a little bit farther and got up higher on that hill. And pretty soon, a big explosion went off. And it wasn't enough to shake the ground. And what it was one of those hand grenades we threw in there, got into a bunch of ammunition, and it exploded all at once. I was kind of lucky to be gone from there. What it were. But no Japanese ever shot at us, so they were pretty well covered. But it was kind of a bad place to be. I mean, they could see out and we couldn't see in, you know. One time, we had a fella they were really good about if a soldier was shot or wounded or anything, they were really good about getting him out of there even if he was dead. Come evening, they didn't like to leave it. When we backed up, but they didn't want to leave anybody out there even if he was dead. This one fella was out there about 100 yards from where we were dug in. We backed up about far and dug in. This one of our guys he'd been shot, I guess, a couple of days before, and a lot of blue flies flying on him, and our guys were afraid to pick him up because at night the Japanese would put a trap on all of those guys that would go off if we moved him. So I had to crawl out there. They wanted me to crawl out into Japanese territory. If there were Japs out there, nobody knew if there was or not, but I had to crawl out there. The grass was about that high. Crawling my belly out there, and I was supposed to go on beyond him about 50 feet or so, dragging my gun along too in case Japanese were out there, and the fly, I went to crawl right by this fellow that was dead. The flies were just covered with them. Big flies like they have here, you know. And I got out there and we all settled down. The dead gun flies thought I was dead too. And they come out there and give my position away. Oh, they come out there by the hundreds, you know, flying around there. But they tied a rope around that fellow's legs, got away from it, and then jerked him out. But he was all swelled up and dead, of course. And then I had to crawl back too out there. One other time I was it was kind of like a waterway. It was kind of like a big wide ditch, and the guys were lined up all that thing and along there. When we're going to kind of go over at the same time, you know, and there was no jungle there for about 100 yards, I suppose, and the grass was about that high. And this happened 2 different times. And I was out there, first one out there, and all the rest of the guys are still in that ditch back behind. It's kind of like a big waterway, and you see in a pasture. And boy, they turned a machine gun on me. And just as soon as I heard, they must say they couldn't see me maybe from where the Japanese were, and they turned that thing on and just swept the ground around there, you know, like that. The thing just chattering them out. I was laying flat on my belly, and they were going right over my head, and probably 6 inches above me, I suppose. And it seemed like when a battle like that was going on, pretty soon everything might just stop, and it wouldn't be everybody listening. So I thought if he ever turned that thing off, I was ready to go in reverse. I had to back up about from here to where's your car? About 100 feet maybe. And of course they had hand grenades and all of them hanging on the side, you know, when I put myself in gear on the belly and backed up fast as I could. The old sergeant says, hey Martin, how bad you hurt? He said, I thought they had you. I said, I don't think I'm shot at all. I said, look at me over, I don't think so. But I lost all my hand grenades. They were out there, and that happened twice. Same thing again, and they missed me again. From the time I joined my Army outfit, my people here at home didn't know where I was. As a matter of fact, even in the boat going overseas, they didn't know whether they went to Japan or New York until they dropped the bomb. And if you wrote a letter home, you couldn't mail it. You'd have to give it to somebody's their job, and they would read it, and anything that had any inkling of telling anybody where we were, they would cut it out. And I saw some of my old letters I sent home looked like a Valentine. I tried to tell them where I was, but they didn't know all the time I was gone, where I was. We had the Japanese pretty well beaten when, but we were sent to a camp to practice to go to Japan. It's like taking infantry schooling all over, you know, and all the stuff we had to do. Our outfit, the 158th, was going to go in 4 days ahead of everybody else to attack Japan. We were first ones to go. Boy, I thought it was going to be pretty rough. But while we were practicing there for, I suppose it's a couple of weeks or 3, I don't know how long it was, maybe a little longer than that. Then they dropped the bomb. Boy, that was a relief when they dropped that. Man, everybody was feeling pretty good. Because I think they all had the same idea I did. I didn't think we was going to get there. I did. It was really. It would have been a really lot worse than I thought it was going to be, but I didn't think I was going to go. I didn't think I was going to survive. And as it was, as I read what it was like, where we were going to go, and what they had for fortifications there, prepared for us landing them, we wouldn't have got out of the boat. I don't think we'd never gone ashore. We wouldn't have floated ashore if it did. We'd never made it. Even when we got, when they dropped the bomb, we were in the Philippines. No, we didn't know they had an atomic bomb at all. Our commanding officer read to us the orders that we were going to go. Of course, the GIs didn't know it. They didn't hear this, and I've read it in magazines since then that the same thing. That he said that when we go ashore, we expect 100% casualties. He knew that. So he knew they were pretty well 100% casualties. And I thought, that's getting pretty close to me. I think we heard that all the same time, I think, where I was, I think. We didn't get any mail, no news. We didn't get any news or mail or anything like that. They didn't tell us too much. When the war was over, then we were loading our boats and stuff. I mean, our train cars anyway, to ship them to the ocean to go to Japan. And they dropped the bomb. Well, we went ahead and went to Japan, and I lived in Yokohama, Japan. However, it was quite a little while after they dropped the bomb before we got there. We weren't the first ones there, but pretty close to it, because we was in the typhoon out there for a while. And we would go north 2-3 days, then go south 3 or 4 days, try to get out of it. I guess their communications or weather map wasn't too good. So anyway, I landed in Tokyo, Japan, and of course Tokyo was just all bombed, and there was nothing there hardly. There wasn't any people there. No Japanese there hardly at all. I could put all the Japanese people that I saw in this house when I come into Tokyo. And it was really bombed bad. And we went from there to a little town about 90 miles north of there. And the way we got there was by train. They redid the tracks some, but there were a lot of them warped. The old train was just shaking back and forth. We went up there about 90 miles that way, and when I got there, that town was just blew all to pieces, and no people there. They were empty, and so. After we was there for a week or so, people started coming in there, coming out of the mountains. They just coming out there by the hundreds, bicycles, walking, and oxen, and everything else, and coming back to see what they had. I talked to some old Jap there. I thought he was old anyway. He could speak English, and I said to him, how many people got killed when they blew that place off the map? He said, nobody. He said, the B-29s flew over there one time, he said, way up there, so I could see them. Dropped leaflets, told them to get out of that town, because in 48 hours they ain't going to be there, no town there. And he said, by that time, we knew the Americans knew what they're talking about. They're going to do what they say. And he said one day the sky was full of bombers up there one day. Everybody moved. They moved out the mountains, He said you could see them though from where they were. He said it was just alive with bombers up there dropping them blockbusters. He said just tearing and fires everywhere. Anything that would burn was burnt. Anything that was blew apart. You know, he just tore it all to pieces. You can't imagine. And they all came back to see nothing. So I don't know where they all went to, but they went back to try to clean up stuff right away. And the Japanese people in the Philippines, they were real treacherous people. I mean, they'd commit suicide sometimes down there. And one time they charged us one time, about 60 of them. They'd been drinking sake, I think, and they had their legs wrapped up with bandages so that a bullet would stop them. I mean, that was the reasoning for it. But they attacked us guys. We got them 100%. Shot all of them. We lost one man. Got shot. It didn't kill him, but the reason he got shot, he jumped out of his foxhole and tried to get his better one, and a bullet caught him before he got over there. He was just right there, right where I was. Nobody was killed in our outfit. We got all of them that tried to attack us. So they were vicious people. We wouldn't take a prisoner at all. But when I got to Japan, the people there were completely different. They were all very, very nice people, all of them. Well, I talked to a lot of them in Japan while I was there, and they real friendly people. Still feel kind of uneasy around them yet, kind of, sort of, you know. Not afraid of them, but they were really good people. The ones there was their gardens and so forth. There was we were forbidden to, in the Army, forbid us from eating anything there that they raised, because a lot of the gardens were fertilized with human fertilizer. They have horse-drawn carts with big containers on them, and they have all the sewage in them, you know, and they'd put that on the gardens and stuff. And of course, they were all immune to eating all that kind of food, you know, I guess, and didn't bother them much, but it sure would us, I suppose. I never did eat anything over there. I was a scout in the Philippines, so I was there, and out in front, and getting shot at a lot of times. And I thought, well, boy, if I go to Japan, I know that when I jumped out of that boat to go in there, well, wasn't much of a chance. So I thought, well, I'd get in something else if I could. So I'd been working down in the supply room for our outfit for quite a little while. Well, all the time I was taking training to go. And I got switched to supply sergeant. So I had charge of all the supplies of our company, including beer, going to Japan. I had it made. I mean, that was good nice. I thought it'd be a lot better to be there. I don't think I'd have made it anyway, even no matter where I come from. So when I went to Japan, I was in charge of all our equipment, with guns and jeeps and shorts and underwear, all that stuff. And our outfit, 158, that was the end of their job. They shut down altogether, and all the people that had enough points to go home, I guess they went home. I didn't have quite enough points to go home, as a lot of other guys didn't either. They sent us all over Japan and they sent me down to the amphibious engineers. And I came into the engineers down there as a sergeant, and there was so many other guys that sent there too, that none of them that I do. They'd had places for them, but the places for the sergeants was full. So the captain told me that I didn't need to, I had nothing to do, no room for a sergeant at all. He's a real nice fellow, this fellow was. He said, just find you a good tent there, get in it. So I went and got in the tent. And they were running these amphibious boats, LCMs they call them. That's the kind that fold down in front when I go make a landing. And it was a boat and shore company that I was in. And we would take them boats and go out into the harbor there. Might go out there a mile or two and get loads of supplies from there and bring them in to the mainland. So I have to get a crew together. The captain called me to get a crew together, and they had the fellow that run the boat, you know, and we'd go out and get a load. I just went along. I worked with the rest of them, and we'd load 100-pound bags of sugar, all kinds of stuff like that, you know. And I learned how to run that boat, and I knew the captain pretty well, but he didn't know what I was doing. But they had me in a tent there with all the rest of the guys, about 20 feet from the seawall, and the water come in there when the wind's blowing, and I was so close to the water they'd be raining on my tent even, and I kind of enjoyed it there. So I was really out of the Army for a little while there, and I was I guess you'd say I was in the Navy, just because I was a sergeant, no place else to put me. They were full of everything. So anyway, I learned how to run that boat just by watching. It had to be a big Marine diesel in the thing, and it had about two big engines in there down the bottom, and each engine run a propeller on the back. And that thing, it'd go about 25, 30 miles an hour, and you could steer the thing just like an old Caterpillar tractor, you know. So you could turn that thing square right out on itself. I learned how to do all that stuff. Yeah, you could put one in reverse and one going forward, and that thing spin right around on itself. But a few times, I was in Yokohama, and you want to go to Tokyo, which is 25, 30 miles apart, I suppose. I would just go down there. And I would go up to the captain's office. I got to know him pretty well because he called me if there was anything to do, any jobs to do, because I was without a job. So I'd have to get a crew of men, and we'd get on the boat and go out pretty every day. And so in between times, I don't know, 2 or 3 occasions, I would just go up to the captain and tell him, Captain, I'm going to go to town today. I'd say, could you run this place if I was gone all day? Joking to him. He said, I think I could run her all right, he said. I said, well, I'll see you tomorrow. I tell him. So I would go down and crank one of the boats up that was tied up down there right by my tent. Away I go. Nobody knew I took a boat. And by myself, yeah. And I would, I remember one occasion, they had a canal there that you go into where the fuel was. And I knew where that was. And I was wondering how I'd get that full of fuel. Maybe they shouldn't be on the air. And they'd put it, I don't know what the thing held, 1,000 gallons maybe, I don't know what it was. I just tell him, fill this thing up. I'd tell him real quick. Because I knew he had a little bit of paperwork to do. So he'd pull her up, and I just slewed him, and it'd be some private that filled it. And I'd crack that thing out and go back out to sea. I wheel up there and park up there where all the big boats are tied up. I'd just tie mine up too and go uptown, put a lock on it, come back and get on it and go home. In town, it was kind of nice that every branch of the service had mess halls there. And the Americans had a uniform on. Of course, had to wear uniforms, you know, and you could eat wherever you wanted to. So I would go up there to get lunch and walk up and down the street. See, I think people are all coming back into town. You know, had little shops and stuff already getting put together. They had someday they had places to go to the bathroom and build up some of the buildings that survived, you know, or else maybe they built them, but they'd have a men's bathroom, ladies' bathroom, and there was regular bathrooms. They all used them. One bathroom I went in up there, they didn't have equipment like they have here. They just have a little thing that straddle in the floor, you know, like little troughs. It's just, well, you go into this one where there's men and women both in there. And they had separate ones besides, but and sometimes they'd have one right on the street there, you know, right on the sidewalk where you go in to use the bathroom. And you might that might be the women's. You have to walk through it to get to the men's at the back. It was quite a deal some places. And there was so much stuff went on, and when the war was going on, it was kind of you never hear about it at home. There was at night, you know, the men couldn't get out of the holes. If they had to go to the bathroom, they'd travel. A lot of them had diarrhea, and they couldn't get out of the hole. So they take the helmet off and put dirt in the bottom of it, and you could hear them. You could hear them going to the bathroom over there, and then they'd have to clean it out the best way they could and put it on the next morning, you know, or before they got out of that hole. And that was one thing that's kind of bad. Well, when I left, I didn't have quite enough points to get out to be discharged. I don't know what the points had. You had so many points for in the Army, and so many points for being overseas, and so many points for being in combat and all kinds of stuff. And of course, that stuff was all done for me. I didn't do any of that stuff. But when I came home, this captain of the place that I told you I'd see him tomorrow, he said, "I got some news for you today." He said, "The Red Cross said that your mother was dying of cancer." Of course, I knew that. She had cancer when I left, but she wasn't very good. Of course, I wasn't getting any correspondence, so they'd write a letter home, and it might be a week before I ever get it. And or maybe longer. Sometimes I would get mail, especially back when I was during the wartime. I might go 2 or 3 weeks no mail. And my captain called me over to the office. He said I had that there for me, that I could go home, and temporarily. He said you might be able to catch a plane. So it's a favor for me from him to get that privilege. He says, "I'll have a Jeep here at my office at 6 o'clock in the morning. Feeling good." I said, "How long did it take you to pack?" I said, 10 minutes. Because I put it on the bag, that's all I had. So I was up there in the next morning, about 6 o'clock, and there was a Jeep sitting there, a driver, engine running. And I went about, I suppose, 35, 40 miles to where this place was. Hatsugi, I think it was, air base there and stuff. And I went in there, and I went to work trying to get to a plane. But I guess I got into a plane that was going to bring mail across. It took 2 days, 3 nights to get home from Japan on that plane. We landed several places for refuel and on different islands coming home. So I left there that way. I didn't come home by boat. And I still didn't know anything about my mother until I got to San Francisco. I went to the phone booth there, and she answered the phone. So I didn't know she'd had her life when I left Japan. Communication wasn't very good at all. My folks did not know where I was from the time I joined the 158 until the war was over. They didn't know where we were. I don't know why they didn't tell them about where we were, but well, I went to Twin Falls, Idaho for a while in the Army then, though, back in the Army again. I was in Twin Falls, Idaho for 2 or 3 months, I suppose. And they sent me from there I went out to Filer, Idaho, little town about the size of Abilene down here maybe. Well, I didn't know what I was going to do at all. I got there, and my orders were to go about 30 miles north of Twin Falls, Idaho, to a little town called Filer, Idaho, and they had German prisoners of war there in a compound there. There was 800 of them up there. And I went up there, and they furnished me a car, took me up there. And they didn't even ask me what I could do or anything. And I didn't even know how to fold a flag. But I never had access to any of that kind of stuff. All I knew how to do was run the gun. They dropped me off there. There was a captain there, and they met me right in the parking lot. I could crawl out there. I didn't even know what it was, and it was a compound there that held 800 German prisoners there, and big, fence around it, and machine guns up in the corners, And there was an office on the outside of that. There was an office, and that's your office right there. And they said, he says, we got the captain and the lieutenant. They said, we got enough points to go home in a couple of days. And they said, this outfit here, this place here, you're in charge. Good news, and I didn't know a dang thing. I didn't know how to fill out a morning report. I never did work in an office my whole life. So I was in charge, though, but everybody thought I was a smart fella around there, I guess. And what they did there, farmers would come in there and pick up with their big grain trucks about 4 o'clock in the morning, every morning, and pick up prisoners of war, Germans, and take them out to hoe Trigger Beach. So I had to be over there to check them out. And then to get ahead of my time, they left the car there, a brand new Ford car. It was mine to run. And I was supposed to go out and myself to each one of these farms and see if the Germans are okay and see if they're all there and see if any of them try to go leave or anything like that. And that was one of my jobs. And I was there, I guess I was there for a couple months maybe. I was getting pretty enough points to go home. I knew I was going to go home any time, and they wanted me to stay there and go home with them to Germany. That's all by boat in those days, you know. They weren't flying anybody. And I didn't want to go to that at all. So I told them I wasn't interested in going there. So so I went back to the main place, and those guys all went home. Some of them hadn't been home for 4 years. I had a maid there, though. I'll tell you how I handled the place. I was in charge, but I didn't know anything about their bookwork or anything. But they had a German boy there, really a fine fellow. He was an Air Corps man, run a fighter plane in Africa. It was ROM outfit. And by the way, I'll tell you about him. He had a kind of funny voice because he had a cotton in one ear. And I asked him what the cotton in your ear for. He said, "Oh, I got shot down in Africa." He said, "The bullet either went in the mouth, come out of my ear, or else the other way. I didn't know which it went, but shot him down anyway." But he had kind of a funny voice, you know. I said, "What'd they do for it?" "Oh, nothing, just puts the cotton in the ear." He says, "Opened clear through there yet." But he was a sharp cookie. He did all of my bookwork, and I didn't have to do anything like that at all. And they might have thought I was doing some of it, but I wouldn't do any of it. I'd read it, but I was in charge now. There was 800 prisoners there. And the guards were they were kind of, weren't too smart, I didn't think. They'd up there and they'd like to put their foot on a trigger on a machine gun. They had a white line around inside, about 20 feet inside the fence. If anybody got near that, if anybody went across that, boy, he'd be a dead one. But the Germans are nice people, all of them that I knew. Quite a few could speak English, even quite a few of them could. And I used to want to visit those guys. Shoot, they were glad to see me. Those guys outside were afraid to go in there. Well, those guys weren't going to hurt nobody. I didn't think they were going to hurt me anyway. I wasn't afraid of any of them. And didn't have to be, it didn't think. And they're all pretty nice people. When I came home, I came home on a regular passenger train by myself and walked off there, and my folks were there, and my family met me. I went home and went back to farming. Nobody talked anything about World War II no more. I don't remember telling my, as I think back, a lot of stuff I didn't really tell her about anything, you know. There's a lot of stuff I could tell you about, stuff that there never was a camera for news, not where I was. If there was any there, they was back there at least 100 feet or 1,000 feet probably. No pictures were ever taken where I was, because I was, the only reason I could stay alive, I shot first and throwing hand grenades all day long. Never did get shot. Bullets flying everywhere. But I had a fellow that I kind of knew him. He was about like where the stove is from behind me. There wasn't nobody in front of me but Japs. And a Japanese poked a rifle out and got him. He was stooped over about halfway down, and I knew he'd got hit, knocked him down. He was about near her, and I didn't have time. You see in the movies, you know, you see they always hover over the fellas down. They would help him out, you know, shoot. If I did that, I'd been dead like that. And but the medics come up there and just grabbed him by the heels and drug him out. That was their job. But they were good at that too. They carried guns too, and I didn't know. I thought he's dead, but because he hit the ground pretty hard. And it must have been 6 weeks or so after that. Sometimes they'd change us from one mountain to another, you know. Maybe by truck. This particular time was a truck to go not very many miles. And this was about 6 weeks after that, after so the guy got shot. By God, there he was, standing on the street, thumbing a ride. And he crawled up on it, and I said, "Gosh dang," I said, "I thought you was dead." He said, "Well," he said, "I was pretty lucky." He said, "When the rifle went off, I was leaning on the head." He said, "It went in there, between my windpipe and my jugular vein." He said, "Come out way down there by my butt." He said, "Missed my spinal cord, and a quarter of an inch there too. Come out." Went all the way through him. He said, "You know, by gosh, the penicillin was just kind of getting going in those days." He said, "That must be good medicine." He said, "Boy, you know," he said, "I just feel so good. Nothing wrong with me at all." And I said, "Man, I thought you was dead." And he says, "I'm going to go home." He said, the doctors can't tell whether my spine hurts or not. And he said, "I complain all the time." And he said, "I'm going to go home." He said, "I got 5 boys at home, my own family, that I haven't seen for 2 or 3 years." And he said, "I'm going to go home." It was the last time I saw him. There wasn't very many men there. The barbers were all run by women, and little stores run by women. When they women, any short of men. I got a haircut with a girl there one day, and she said her husband, she hadn't heard from him for a couple of years, but she said the war is over, and I expect him to come home pretty soon, probably. Shoot, I could have told him he wasn't coming home. But from where I was, he didn't come home.